Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Of All Trades with Nolan Robinson. I'm so glad you're tuning in again. I have a very great guest on this show today, another person who I am very grateful to call a friend. Her name is Olivia Pura, and if you don't know her name now, you really should. She is phenomenal, and she is representing the wonderful state of Illinois at the 2020 Miss USA pageant. She is an incredible scientist, an incredible person. She double majored in biochemistry and Slavic languages and literature at Northwestern, which she just graduated from, and is in our DNA. She does everything known to man. And she has her own podcast, which she started with her boyfriend about a month ago. And I'm so blessed and fortunate to have her on the show today to speak to you all. So Olivia, would you please come in?
Hello, that
There
was
she
the
is.
warmest introduction ever. Thank you for that.
Thank you. I practice it. I practice it. I'm like, I have to get this perfect for her. But thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so
Wait, no,
excited to
you're
be
not
on.
having me on. I'm, I'm so
I'm taking
nervous.
over the
I'm so
podcast
nervous.
surprise.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is not my
Well,
podcast.
yes, yeah. Well, tell everyone about your podcast. I briefly mentioned it in the introduction, but tell everyone what you're doing with Drew.
Yeah, so this was actually Drew's idea. I have to give credit where credit is due. But I think this is like the mental version of giving yourself bangs during quarantine. You're like, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. Um,
Yeah, or baking bread.
Yep, we did both. We did both
Yeah.
numerous times. So yeah, we kind of sat down. We had this conversation because he's also a science major, graduated with a degree in biology or neuroscience, maybe. Same difference. But
Yeah.
we sat down. We realized, so many people are interested in what science can do for people and humanity. And I mean, this is the greatest example, right? I mean, we're following these vaccines like crazy. But most people aren't going to sit down and read a Nature paper and go through 20 pages of like this really dense scientific literature just to find out something that's pretty simple and pretty basic at its core. And it's not that fun to sit through these scientific papers. So we kind of sat down, we had this conversation. We're like, why don't we just talk about it? Because most scientists and most really intellectual people are good at speaking about science in a way that isn't as complicated as the way we write about it. So it was just a really fun way for us to meet our role models, to be honest, and then be able to use that information to kind of share it with other people. So that's how Science and Society was born. And it's honestly a blast. I'm a huge talker. Anyone that knows me knows this. So I'm finally like using my voice for a real purpose and not just chatterboxing all the time, which is good too.
Yeah, I mean, but it is wonderful chatting with you too. But that's fascinating. So, what are some of the I'm sorry, I don't know how many episodes you've had so far.
Just
Two,
released number
three.
3. Yeah.
Number three. Yeah. So, who are the guests that you've had so far on the show?
So one of our first guests actually was one of the coolest people. His name was Craig Pickering. He
Hmm.
was originally from the UK and was an Olympic athlete in 2 different sports. He was on the Olympic team for track, I believe, in the UK, and was going to be on the bobsleigh team for the Winter Olympics, had like a career-ending injury, and then decided to go get a PhD and studies caffeine. So this man does it all. This man has and in him, like the and his DNA is Craig Pickering's motto. So
Yeah,
he was
it's
a
like
really
up
cool
here.
guest. Yeah,
Yeah.
extremely cool. We had another researcher that studies habit formation, a psychologist over at King's College London. And then our most recent guest was actually Drew's orthopedic surgeon, who also does a lot of work studying longevity and vitality and how our decisions that we make throughout our lifetime end up affecting our long-term health, which was really cool too. And a little scary, but good information
Wow,
for the most
that's
part.
yeah. I mean, I have always been fascinated with science and with math. But I'm not on the pre-med track here at Northwestern, so I haven't really taken classes in chemistry and biology and what have you. But I am fascinated about this stuff, and it's so exciting to hear that you and Drew have created a space for people like me who are interested in this, but may not have the substantial knowledge or database in their brain to absorb everything, but to make it simple. And that is really cool. I'll have to listen to it. And it's remind the audience what the name of it is again.
Science and Society. We're on
Science and Society.
Spotify.
Yep, on Spotify. So I know you Spotify people. Are you on Apple Podcast at
Yeah.
all?
Which is
Okay, yeah.
honestly,
So
I don't know if you feel this way too. It is so cool to Google yourself or like search yourself on Spotify and see that come
and
up.
to
I
see
don't know, like
yourself there, yeah,
I still get
it's
excited.
insane. Yeah, so in this age of technology, audience, they are everywhere, so you have no excuse. Definitely check it out. Yeah, but let's talk a bit about more about you and where you're from. I know you, but I also read through your bio, which was very handy. And I remember when I first met you, I told you that I was a first generation college student, not first generation American, but you are, correct?
Yes, both of my parents were born and raised in Poland, moved here separately, and then met in Chicago. So both of them are from the motherland over up in Europe, and it's still such a big part of who we are today as a family and who I am as a person. Um, and definitely has shaped my path. I mean, that's why I studied Slavic languages really. I was such a brat growing up about going to Polish school. So I didn't really get to, it's one thing to learn about your culture and learn about your family from your family, but then to learn it kind of separately, almost from like the outside perspective, is really, really cool and completely different. So it was awesome to be able to kind of incorporate that into my Northwestern experience.
That's phenomenal. And can you just talk a bit about, because just reading your introduction and what you're doing now it's beautiful and it's phenomenal. Being first generation American and your parents being immigrants, can you talk about the challenges and the difficulties that came with a history like your own?
So I think I didn't really, to be entirely honest, I didn't really notice it until I got to college and kind of maybe a
Hmm.
little bit before as I started going through the application process. I was going in with, and I'm sure you can probably relate to this, I was going in with no structure. I guess I'll call it that. I couldn't ask my parents about how they went about things. And obviously, the college application process, even if my parents had gone to college, would have been entirely different back then, but at
Hmm.
least you have somewhere to start, right? You have like a point on a map and you kind of go from there. I had to draw my whole map from scratch.
Yeah.
If that's I think that's the best way I can explain it. So
Yeah, that was perfect.
yeah, so you kind of start from nowhere and kind of have to build your own history and create your own story because your parents didn't have that when you start this whole process of higher education. And that's really intimidating too, to come to college and then realize the different networks that people have and the different resources that people had access to when they were in high school. I was one of the few people that I met being I started pre-med, but going through the pre-med type courses, that never shadowed a doctor in high school, didn't intern anywhere in high school. I didn't know that I was supposed to do these things. And even as I went through college, I had to ask all the questions because I had no idea what it meant to be a successful college student and what it meant to be successful, air quotes, in my career and in a university. Like, what does that even mean? To me, success in school was always grades, right? That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it. And I just didn't know what steps I had to take to get to where I was supposed to be. So there was a lot more of like this trial and error as I went through Northwestern, kind of figuring out what I needed to do to make sure that like their sacrifices and that the fact that I even was a college student was actually going to be worth it. So I didn't just let it all go to waste.
Yeah, there were a couple things that you said that I want to touch on, and I was taking notes as you were writing. But you talked about success and not knowing what being a successful college student is like. And I can speak with my own experiences as well. I'm actually wearing my first generation college student
Woo!
shirt. Yeah, it was coincidence. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm wearing it. Didn't plan it, but I faced those questions too, and not only do students in our position being the first in our family to go to college face those, but every college student faces those questions, especially if you're at a school as prestigious as Northwestern or any school for that matter. You wonder, well, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing in order to be successful. And lots of that could be comparing yourself to other people. And if you don't reach that certain milestone or, that certain particular part of that person's journey, then you feel like you haven't succeeded at all. I want to ask you, during your time at Northwestern and being where you are now, what was that mode of success? When you reached it, if you've ever felt like you reached it, what did it feel like? What was it? Was it a particular moment? Was it a certain feeling? Talk to me about that.
I think I'm someone that believes that success is a lifelong process. Truly, I mean, you reach milestones in life, absolutely. Graduating was a milestone, and
Yeah.
a small success. But I think a big part of being successful in life is never stopping and always looking for growth in your success and growth within your success. And maybe once you feel like you've kind of reached the conclusion of one part of your life, okay, then what can I do next? Like I'm always looking for more. I'm always someone that likes to stay busy and be busy. But I think one really big moment for me that kind of felt like a breath of fresh air, like a weight off my chest, like a yes, I did something right kind of moment, was when I actually realized that I didn't want to be pre-med. And kind of out of context, that sounds like a bad thing. But,
Yeah.
you go into college with like this beeline attitude, like I'm here so I can get into med school, so I can be a doctor, so I can do whatever a doctor does. But, that was the only path I knew. Again, because what do people that like science do? They study, biology and they become doctors. That's all I really knew in life because I didn't know, my mom was a nurse. That was kind of the only context I had in life when it came to that sort of thing. But as I started doing undergraduate research at Northwestern, I realized I loved being in a lab. I mean, my first project was grungy lab work. I was literally swabbing the toilets and sinks in hospitals and growing the bacteria from it. I mean,
Oh my
grungy,
goodness.
grungy lab work. But I loved it. I was so excited by it. And I realized that that was a career in of itself, which is why I'm getting a PhD now. I was always like a creative kind of quirky, like weird kid that like went around and like put stuff under microscopes and tried to mix potions with the things in my backyard. So it just made sense for me to be in a lab and to make a mess and to try things and see what happens and do these experiments. Um, and when I realized that that was an option for me, that that was actually something I could like professionally pursue, I could be a professional researcher, that was like, oh my gosh, like eureka, like here I am, like I did it, like I found my purpose. Because the purpose that I had given myself going into college maybe would have worked out. I mean, there's no way of knowing whether I would have liked med school. Maybe I would have. Um, but I feel like Northwestern and that whole process helped me find the right place for myself, which was cool.
Yeah, for sure. And even while you were speaking, another, I guess, example of success could be allowing yourself, because you talked about, beeline and, you're going to do this. This is the only thing I'm going to do. I think another way one can find success is to realize that there are many different paths one can go in their life and
Right.
discovering that, because I discovered that when, I was younger in college, and when I realized that, hey, yeah, this is my plan and this is what I want to do, but there are various different ways to get to that point. That was one moment of success. I felt successful in that moment because I'm like, hey, like my life is more it's circuitous than I thought it would be and
Right.
crazier than I thought it would be. So I don't have to stick to this one thing. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and did you want to add anything else to that?
I think, I mean, people joke about the and is in our DNA thing, the
Yeah.
slogan that Northwestern likes to use. But it really, I think it's not a matter of doing more and doing
Mm.
more all the time. I think it's allowing yourself to kind of venture off a path once in a while. Well, kind of, it surprises you when you do that and you realize that you actually found something that you had, gone that straight path, you wouldn't have realized interests you or brings you joy. And, worst case scenario, you realize you don't like it and you just, beeline the other way. So
Yeah.
I definitely think that there's so much value in kind of taking that wiggly route sometimes.
Exactly. And it's all about, like what you just said, what brings you joy. It's like joy isn't linear. It's, sometimes you can find something that brings you joy that you didn't know would, and vice versa. And you talked about how when you were younger, you would just put anything under a microscope. So it wasn't a phase because that's what you do today. It's like science is in your blood. Did you always know that you wanted to be a university professor?
Oh, definitely not. I went through
Yeah.
a really interesting set of career goals as a child. I remember this is like one of my mom's favorite stories. When Hillary Clinton ran for president the first time, and she lost the Democratic nomination to Barack Obama. But before she had lost that, like when it was first announced that she was going to run for president, I bawled my eyes out. I must have been like in second grade.
Oh, yeah.
Bawled my eyes out to my mom because I was like, she's going to be the first female president before I am. So that was career goal number one, was to be president of the United States. As an adult, seeing how
And I'm
politics
sure you were
works,
crying because you were like, "Oh no, she's gonna beat me to it." Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
was my thing. She was taking my thing. I'm glad I didn't venture into politics now. I think that's a space best left for other people. I wanted to be an astronaut at one point. I wanted to be an FBI agent at another point. I loved like CSI type stuff. I wanted to be a spy. I loved, like that kind of, world. Um, so it wasn't really until college where I met a university professor and like saw one for the first time in real life that I was like, this is so cool.
Mm. Yeah. Was there any professor along your career at Northwestern that you one still talk to today, and also a relationship that will last years into the future?
So there's two that come to mind. My physics professor, who actually no longer teaches at Northwestern, she just took a job at U Chicago, Professor Kreuzberg. She
Hmm.
was, being a female professor in physics, which I think is even more male dominated than biology. Um, she was just a huge inspiration. She was just like a wonderful human being. It's almost hard to describe her. Like just someone that you wanted to be friends with and like go out for brunch with and hang out with. And she taught yoga classes at Northwestern, just like an all around cool person.
Yeah.
And then the second one that comes to mind is actually who I did research with in like the latter half of my undergraduate career. His name is Tom Mead, Professor Tom Mead. He teaches the biochemistry course, and he just loves science. He loves research. Like he's fired up about biochemistry, and it's contagious, So I ended up working in his lab, doing research with him, and he's just an awesome scientist and academic, and someone that I think will change the world and is currently changing the world. And again, in that aspect of life, I just so highly admire him.
Yeah, there was one thing that you said about it being contagious. I sense that with you talking with you right now, and when we met, it's you exhibit. Anytime you're talking about something you're passionate about, you just exhibit so much joy, which is why I got so fascinated hearing about your podcast, and I'm like, I need to listen to it now because
Thank you.
the way that you talk about it, it's like like I really need to get into this. It's just everything about it is contagious. So I just wanted to give you that
Thank
comment.
you.
But I had watched a video. I think you recorded it a few months ago. I think it was promo for Miss USA, and you said that you're a gamer and you like to sing, and you mentioned how Mario Kart and Fortnite are your top games, and that you're undefeated in Mario Kart. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay, so I want to make a clarification. I'm really good at
Okay.
Mario Kart Wii. I don't know what happened when they made the Switch version. Someone changed something. Something happened from
Oh, it was
point
their
A to
fault.
point B.
It
It was
was
their
their fault.
fault. It was absolutely not my fault. I'm awful at like Mario Kart on the Switch is so difficult for me. However, I will defend my Mario Kart Wii title to the day I die. I refuse to let anyone beat me in
Oh, those
that.
are fighting words, Olivia. I mean, we haven't gotten to play Mario Kart together, but I will let you know that I am also undefeated in Mario Kart. So whenever we see each
Oh,
other again, we're going to have a competition so that way I can take your undefeated title away because
Yeah,
it will happen.
let the best man win, I guess. Man, I'm gonna be due for a trip to Evanston.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's you got to come down here because I will beat you. But that's great. So you find ways to have fun outside of the, the science and the math, even though that is fun. But I guess more of the I don't have to use my brain as much.
Yeah.
How? Oh, yes. Along with that, you said that you are a singer. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So again, clarification, I am a singer. I enjoy singing. I am not a good singer. Um, I think there's a really big difference there. I'm
Yeah.
what one might call a professional shower singer, car singer, not a stage singer. I did musical theater until eighth grade. Um,
Did
I
you?
was I did. I was the guard of the Emerald City gates. Well, what's it called? In
Yep.
Wizard of Oz. I was the guard of the
Yeah.
gates in Emerald
Yeah.
City.
Yeah. The
Uh,
gatekeeper.
the gatekeeper. Yes. I had like a solo and everything, and I did choir in middle school. So I must have had a decent voice for that time period, but there was no way singing was in my post high school life. So,
Yeah. And is there still a talent portion for the pageant?
so Miss USA and this is something that often people mix up because they're so similar in so many ways. Miss
Hmm.
America has a talent portion, so girls compete in talent. Miss USA, on the other hand, does not have an onstage talent competition.
Gotcha.
So I will not have to like present a talent on stage. That's not to say that we're not talented, but you have girls that are like, D1 volleyball players that are competing for the Miss USA title. And
Yeah.
I don't think volleyball translates very well to
Yeah,
a
unless you
two-minute
like
talent presentation.
yeah, unless their talent was like, "Hey, let's get all of these girls to play a volleyball game right now and I'll just beat them all."
Yeah, like let me
Yeah, yeah.
spike the heck out of this game. So
Yeah,
I don't
and
know,
then I guess that yeah, I'm sorry.
maybe there's some way to do it. It hasn't been done yet. That's not to be said, maybe it will be done one day. But we get a lot of girls who are talented or very skilled in other ways, but just, choose not to have a performable talent that they compete with. I mean, Miss Florida USA is actually a professional ballerina, so she
Wow.
very well could, present on stage. But yeah, that's kind of like one of the biggest difference between the two competitions.
Yeah, if you had to for some show if the creators of the pageant came together and was like, "Hey, I think we really need to add a talent portion." Would you choose A, singing, or B, beating all the judges in a game of Mario Kart Wii? If you
Definitely
had to
Mario
show
Kart
that
Wii. Definitely Mario
Mario
Kart Wii.
Kart Wii.
I would go to great lengths to find a way to perform my Mario Kart skills.
Well, I'm sure that will definitely get you the crown because, you're saying you're the best, and, I can't say that you're lying. I would just have to see it for myself.
I would
But
beat
what
you
got,
in Mario Kart Wii for my talent. That would be my talent. Be the only other
oh,
undefeated person in Mario Kart Wii.
but then what if, and this is a huge conditional because I don't think it would happen, but what if I I'm sorry. What if I lost on, national television? Would you feel bad for me at all?
Oh, definitely, definitely. That's actually a prospect that is a little intimidating. Is the idea of losing,
Of
losing.
crushing my spirits.
I'm sorry.
It's
I
okay.
gotta
It's
defend the
okay.
crown, though.
Yeah, but if it means that you get the crown, then I will be fine with it. It's totally
We'll
good.
share it. We'll share it. My condolences will be we'll share the crown. You'll do 6 months, I'll do 6 months.
Yeah, or you can just do, weekdays and I got the weekends.
Yeah,
We can
perfect.
like trade off that
Perfect.
way. Yeah, but what got you into wanting to do pageants? Was it something you did since you were little?
No, actually, I competed for the first time when I was a senior in high school,
Mm,
at like kind of at the beginning of senior year.
yeah.
And I had watched Miss USA and Miss America growing up. I mean, I was just like so enamored by like the idea of competing and the idea of being on stage. I thought it was just the coolest thing in my mind, like I really liked it growing up. But what actually got me to compete for the first time was my high school experience wasn't the greatest. I moved high schools after my freshman year and just didn't really find my footing in my second high school. And without going into, super deep stories about all that,
Hmm.
I was just really looking for kind of something that I could do for myself outside of high school. Um, and it was just a great way for me to kind of challenge myself, to try something new, to do something that was so separate from school, from my extracurriculars that I was already doing, and just to kind of focus on preparing something that would be for myself and to kind of meet new people outside of this domain of high school.
Yeah.
And I ended up winning the Miss Illinois Teen USA title back in 2016 and competing at Miss Teen USA the following summer. And they call it the pageant bug. Basically, what that's saying is that once you start, it's really, really hard to stop. And let me
It's
tell
like getting tattoos. It's like as
yeah,
soon as you get a small tattoo, you're
right.
like,
You're
wait,
like,
I have to
oh,
fill up my entire arm.
exactly. It's like, ooh, like maybe one more, right?
Yeah.
So I fell in love with it. It was such a year of growth for me when I was the team title holder. It was just an incredible experience. I, met so many people outside of, I mean, within Illinois, of course, too, but people from across the country, to meet girls from so many different cultures and personal backgrounds was just so much fun. It was really, really cool. And, especially before going to college, it was the first time I'd really met anybody from outside of Illinois.
Yeah.
And then, the reason I recompeted was because I knew there were some things that I wanted to do better. I was so happy with my year as a team title holder, but there were a couple things that kind of looking back, I said, if I ever have the chance to do this again, I want to do this, 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 and this. And I figured this would have been the greatest year to compete. I was graduating college before starting grad school. Obviously, schedules have shifted because Miss Rona has appeared. That being said, it was just
Miss
another
Rona, who is currently the title holder right now.
yeah. Oh man. So it's just like a great way to, you know, not try again, but to do more and to have like this last hurrah in the world of pageantry before, putting down the crown and picking up the lab coat for an indefinite amount of time. So
Wow.
I
If
got
you
the bug.
write a memoir, I think that should be either the title or the name of a chapter, putting down the crown and picking up a lab coat. I just got chills when you said that.
Maybe that will be my random pursuit throughout grad school. Is just to write a memoir about what this year has been, because it's been an interesting year.
It has been. And even if it's, not a memoir, but like I know that you wrote your first article when you were 19, even just getting together your thoughts, because being so good at what you do in science while also being on, a very big stage in this country, being Miss Illinois and competing is so fascinating. It's like the two, it's such an unprecedented combination. It's like, yes, I'm a scientist and I'm very good at this. Like, watch me do what I do. But I'm also a pageant woman and I'm also very good at this. So watch me do what I do. So I think it would be, and this is why I'm so happy we're having this conversation, to see the insight of a person who does both. It's so fascinating. And then you said that you started this because you wanted to find, you were in high school and you wanted to, find really what spoke to you. Did you think you were going to win that year?
Oh, absolutely not. Oh man. I mean, I did my research as I do.
Yeah.
So I like found some YouTube tutorials, learned how to curl my hair and do my makeup.
Yeah.
Like the basics, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if you go back and watch the reaction video, I mean, hey, I'm a drama queen. I did my musical theater persona, alter ego came out on that stage. I was, waterfall tears. Like I like looked at my mom and I like made this like crazy face. And she was like making this crazy face back at me. And I was like, what did we just get ourselves into?
Yeah.
So it was a complete shock. I still laugh at that video. Not to say that my Miss reaction video was any less dramatic, but I also didn't expect that to happen. So the world is just full of
It's
surprises.
funny you bring that up because I actually have the video and I want to play it.
So you did your research too? Look at you. You're basically a scientist.
Oh my gosh. Hold on, let me just see if I can pull it up. One sec. Zoom is so weird.
Zoom is weird.
All
And
right.
Zoom for anything other than conversations is even weirder.
Yeah, and we all have Zoom fatigue right now, so it's like pretty bad. And also, this is like I told you before, it's also audio, so I apologize for all the people listening, expecting to hear sound, but I don't know if it will. But here we go. Hold on.
Oh,
I'm
there
about
it
to name
is.
our new Miss Illinois USA. Miss Illinois
I don't know
USA
if you can hear it,
2020
but
is
they're about to say your name.
North
And then they say
Shore
your name, and then
Olivia
look at that
Pura.
reaction. What was going through your mind when that happened?
So I, in a second, will mouth to my mom, after I like make this face a couple times and like freak out. I end up mouthing to my mom, like, I say, Mom, Mom, and I say, I'm going to Miss USA. Because
Oh,
that was kind of like the first, first you're processing, like, oh my gosh, I just won Miss Illinois USA. And then you're like, wait a minute, that means that I'm going to compete at Miss USA. And that realization was overwhelming.
wow. So it's
Um,
just like a pyramid of just realizations, like
yes.
one after the next after the next.
It was what's that Kylie Jenner quote that this was the year of realizing things. So I was just standing there like, one thing after another was just like, washing through my brain. Obviously I was so excited.
Yeah.
But the girls that I was competing against, a lot of them were girls that had competed in the past, like women that I remember as a teen, or like when I was giving up my title as a teen, admiring them on stage and be like, wow, like they're so like amazing and they spoke so well. And I was so excited to be like them as a Miss contestant. So I was expecting to compete for more years after this one. Um, but to win it on the first try was truly remarkable, and something I was so extremely grateful for. So it was so exciting.
When you look back on that time, what's one thing about your performance that night that you feel you really nailed? It's like, yes, if I had to go back and do this over, I wouldn't touch this moment because it was too good, and I don't want to mess this up.
So I guess there's kind of two things that come to mind. One of them is a little superficial and not that exciting, and the other I think is more serious. The first being I actually did my hair differently on finals night. I am, to this day, awful at doing my own hair. So the first night of competition for prelims, I just did like a standard curl, nothing fun or crazy or exciting. Um, and I mean, it looked fine, right? I mean, it did the job. But the second night, I ended up doing that kind of swooshed back thing. And I've always liked wearing my hair like that. I don't like when my hair is in my face. It tends to stick to my lip gloss. It's just not a good time. So
Yeah.
that was kind of something that I'm glad I did because it just felt more like myself. I like competing with my hair slicked backwards. And so that's the kind of the superficial sort of boring thing. The second one, I have always liked the onstage question portion of competition. My goodness, it is nerve-wracking. Obviously we've all seen the YouTube moments of girls that kind of blank out
Yeah.
and don't know what to
I do
say.
watch those a lot when I'm feeling sad and I need a
It's
laugh. Yeah, they're
it's
they're gold.
it's I get so much secondhand stress from watching those because, part of me is like, man, at least that's not me. But then I realize, wait, that could be me. And I'm like, whoa, let's take a step back. And, luckily it went really well at state. And I think I mean, obviously that night worked out perfectly. There really isn't anything I would have changed, but I've always liked the onstage answer portion because I think when you watch someone compete, you can kind of appreciate the way they look and appreciate their walk and their confidence. But I think when someone opens their mouth and speaks is when you really fall in love with somebody and
Mm.
kind of say, this is the person I want to represent our state at Miss USA. And that's a cool kind of like realization to make when you judge a pageant. So I've always liked that portion a lot.
Yeah, with that, did you ever feel that you had to say what you thought the judges wanted to hear, or was it just I need to just speak from my heart in my soul, and whatever happens with that happens.
I think when you get political questions, this is a really big kind of thought that goes through a lot of people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, you know, you don't know. I mean, you could do some deep internet digging on your judges and try to pick their social media and try to find out what they want to hear. But the reality is, you never really know what someone's opinions are and what someone's thoughts are on something unless you actually ask them and find out. So my approach has always been to just answer honestly. Obviously, there's a level of respect that you should have when you speak your opinion, and if you can back it up, then who's to say that you're wrong? I think it's not really what you say so much as how you say it. So as
How
long
you
as you
say it,
deliver
yeah.
it with, with respect to the other side, if there is two sides to the question, and you deliver it with some sort of evidence or beliefs to back it up, I don't really think, I've never tried to please somebody because then that just feels wrong. And I think you can always tell when someone's trying to people please, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's obvious. I've thankfully I haven't come across many of those people in my life, but it's like
Right.
something about it. It's, you can discern it. It's like it just doesn't feel genuine. Um, yeah, I don't like this. And the judges,
Right.
they're the judges for a reason, and they can sense that. But I'm sure they could not sense any of that from you because you're just an authentic person. And there was something you said in the beginning when you talked about, your family coming here and applying to college and starting your own story because it was different than the story of your parents and those who came before you. And one thing about that that I found beautiful is while you're starting your own story, you're also contributing to everything that came before and also everything that will come after. And being a pageant woman, excuse me, I'm sorry, where lots of women in the country see you on stage, you have a very big and important platform. And just with your history, how do you think this is going to impact lots of girls who come after you?
I think it is really a remarkable feeling to kind of, first of all, just to be a first generation American, period, Miss USA or not, is a really astounding and it's an incredible feeling and something that I'm forever grateful for because, regardless of where your parents come from, if they're not from the United States, there was some level of sacrifice, there was some level of give that they made in order to come to this country.
Mm-hmm.
But then to take that and translate that to the Miss USA stage, where I'm competing for Miss USA, I mean, it's a national American title. It feels like kind of this extension of the American dream, or what we think of being the American dream. I mean, not only am I, in college and studying at an amazing university in the United States, I have a chance to literally represent our country and be someone whose parents aren't from this country. And I think that just really speaks to what it means to be American and what this country really stands for, I think, at its core. And a lot of those values have gotten, I think, lost and maybe smudged over the past couple of months. And we're really kind of reevaluating what America means and reevaluating the importance of those values that we really should be holding true to this country. And to kind of, I hope that brings back some hope to people that have maybe lost hope in the American dream or in American values over the past couple months. Because, I'm only one person, but hopefully one person, and sometimes one person can be enough to change someone's mindset about who they are and what they can achieve in their own life. So that's really my goal, is to kind of, even if it's for one girl out there who watches and says, if she can do it, so can I, that means the world to me.
Mm, that's beautiful. There's one thing that you said about, one person changing a life. It really only takes one person. And I'll quickly tell you a story. It's a story I heard at camp many years ago, and I love it. This young man was walking on a beach, and no, this older, I don't want to mess up the story, so let me start over. This older man one day was walking on the beach to himself. It was a really sunny day, and thousands of starfish on the beach, not in the ocean where they should be. He keeps walking for a few minutes and sees a young boy taking one and throwing it back into the ocean. And he keeps doing that one by one, taking one, throwing it back into the ocean. There are thousands of them on the beach, and the man thinks that he's been doing this for a long time. He approaches the young boy and says, "Excuse me, boy, why are you doing this?" And he said, "Doing what?" And he said, "Throwing them back in. There are thousands of them. There's no way you can return all of them to the sea." The little boy nods at the old man, reaches down, picks up one starfish, throws it back into the ocean, and he said, "You see that one? I was able to return that one in." And then that's where the story ends. And I thought it was beautiful because it's like, you don't have to change everyone in the world. You don't have to, and nor should you. It's not a burden you need to carry. But just to know that you can pick up one starfish and throw it back into the ocean to make sure that that starfish stays alive and stays safe is all the inspiration and hope that you need. And with that, I wanted to ask you, how do you stay hopeful in this era of our nation where pretty much nothing is going well?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said that it's been easy over the past couple months. I mean, everyone has had their fair share of burdens, and there's no way to say that someone's life has been more or less difficult because of what has been going on over the past couple months. Nor is it a competition. I'm not trying to say that my situation is the worst, because it most certainly is not.
Mm-hmm.
But, to kind of first see graduation and my senior year fall apart, then suddenly Miss USA is getting delayed. And I kind of catastrophized for a little bit. You know what I mean? I kind of lost grip of what my life purpose was, because suddenly the two biggest things that had my attention for so long, that being school and Miss USA, poof, gone. So
Right.
suddenly it was just me, myself, and I kind of sitting there like watching all these things go on around the world. And I kind of did lose hope for a little bit, to be entirely honest. But what kind of got me out of that rut was really just paying more attention to the good things in the news and allowing myself to kind of create my own headlines too, because it's so easy to look at what's going on in society and focus on the bad headlines and take that to be the entire reality. And that's not to say those things aren't going on, because they obviously are. They're very real too. But just as important as it is to recognize the harm and the pain going on in the world, to look at those small, no matter how small they were, those instances of compassion, of change, of people doing just incredible things given the situation, given the circumstances. I realize, if they can kind of push through this, if they can make these choices to make the world a better place, I can at least look at myself and have hope, right? And then it came down to appreciating the things that I did have in life. And that sounds, a little, hocus pocusy a little bit, but truly just to kind of sit down and say, I have my family, I have a house over my head, I have, an amazing graduate program that I'm looking forward to, I have Miss USA that's going to happen eventually. Now we know it will happen. Because you take those things for granted when you aren't consciously paying attention to them. So for me, to answer your question kind of more shortly, I took greater appreciation for the good I heard in the world, and then finally took notice and created my own little life headlines of the good things that were happening in my personal life.
That's beautiful. And to be able to spread some of that joy back in what you do with, your science and your podcast, and you going on to represent Illinois, it's just something that's so spectacular. And it's, I wish it were more common, just people spreading joy just because. And we don't see that a lot in the world today. So I'd like to thank you for continuing to do that. And,
As well.
I'm sorry.
You as well.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you, Olivia. And do you, the world is crazy right now, but do you, and we talked about having a beeline while you were a student here. Is that the same with life right now? It's like, this is what I want to do. This is the direction I'm going in. Or are you more of now, just letting things happen when and how they happen?
So obviously, with Miss USA having its date now, there is some level of planning that kind of comes with it. And first of all, I have to make sure I am quarantining for the 2 weeks leading up to the competition. So that kind of, there's some loose planning in like a very literal short-term sense in my life, juggling school and preparation. But long run, right now, teaching sounds like the perfect career. It kind of combines all the things in life that I love, and right now I don't see a better fit. But going back 4 years, I didn't see a better fit than being a doctor. So who's to say that 4 years from now I won't find something else that is even better for myself. And I think if there's one thing, I'm so type A. If there is one thing I have learned over the past couple months is that sometimes you just have to let life happen. So I think long run, I really am just going to try to let life happen, because regardless of what happens at Miss USA, regardless of if I place 51st or first, that might change what I choose to do with my life going forward. I have no way of predicting that. And I think I need to learn to enjoy kind of the lack of structure in life and the lack of predictability, because great things happen when you don't predict, right? I mean, the reason I have my title in the first place is because of chance and kind of this unpredictability of these chances and these choices that we make in life. So when I kind of think about it that way, think about like the good things that have come into my life because I've just let them happen, I'm kind of taking that approach going forward.
Yeah. And if you have any piece of advice for anyone who may be in your shoes, maybe not your pageant shoes, because I don't know how many people can walk in heels, but just, in this very crazy time in our history, people younger than us or even people older than us, what do you want them to know? How do you want to give them hope right now?
I think one of the most incredible lessons I've ever learned is from my youngest sister, who has really severe hearing loss. And if there's one thing I learned from her and from being her sister, is that there's a difference between hearing somebody and listening to somebody. Because my sister might not be able to hear
Repeat that. Yeah, they got to hear it.
There's a very big difference between hearing somebody and listening to somebody. My sister might not be able to hear as well as you and I, but she is one of the best listeners I know. And this girl is just so filled with compassion and love for everybody. And it's because she listens, even though she can't hear. And I think that she has just been one of the most incredible people to grow up with. And I think the world just needs more listening right now.
I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Everyone remember that. Listening and hearing are two very different things, and maybe that can be a reflection for you all to really decide, throughout my life, throughout this moment, this day, have I heard more or have I listened to people more? And also with that, you don't have to talk all the time. With that, listening is the most important thing you can do. It's when you're having conversations with people like, this one, it's really important to listen to where someone comes from, to listen to the struggles that they're facing, the challenges that they've overcome and are overcoming or haven't overcome yet. Because I think it's very easy to in the hustle and bustle of our everyday individual lives, feel that we don't have to worry about other people, that it's all about me, me, me. But if COVID has taught us anything, and where we are as a nation continuously teaches us, is that we aren't alone, and there are so many people being affected, and all you have to do is listen and be a good human being. Olivia, thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation. You are a delight. A great friend. I will, of course, be rooting for you as, not only a friend, but as the person who is representing my own state. And you grew up in the Chicagoland area. That's right.
I did, born and raised.
On the playground is where you spent most of your days.
Yep.
Well,
oh, man.
Again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to catch Olivia representing Miss Illinois in the Miss USA 2020 pageant, which is when, Olivia?
November 9th.
November
at
9th.
8 p.m. Eastern. I believe it is on the FYI network. So it will be on TV.
All right, great. Well, tell someone how much you love them, everybody. Olivia, I love you.
Nolan,
be kind.
right back at you. So much love.
Thank you. And I will see you all soon. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.